Hi and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends. Today I want to do a video about a story I saw involving Harry Maguire, the Manchester United captain, and talking about a collaboration with Sky to take away your free speech rights. And Harry Maguire, the football player for Manchester United and England, was talking about online hate, as he put it, and he was saying how, one of his main focuses in his job is protecting his teammates from online hate. And if anyone out there, who follows football is wondering about the struggles at Manchester United, I think this statement from Maguire pretty much alluded to the heart of their problems. And of course, in addition to that, the reason Manchester United players generate so much online hate is because they're the most expensively remunerated football team in British history, but yet they don't win any trophies, they don't win any championships, and a lot of those questions come from their own fans. And I think on recent performances, if you look at Luke Shaw and Paul Pogba, I think most of their online hate is coming from their own families, such as being the poor performance and, just total ineptitude of their efforts playing for Manchester United this season. But I wanted to ask the question of how, why Sky has the authority and why Maguire has the authority to take away your free speech rights. And the reason I'm making this statement is because it comes from Maguire. He was saying there's all this online hate out there directed at me and my teammates for reasons unknown to us. And Sky are stepping up to put a stop to it. And he was endorsing Sky and saying how great Sky was for putting a stop to the online hate. And, I always consider myself a pretty young person, but I'm going to look kind of old in this video because I remember the days before Sky even existed. It was back in the 1980s and early 1990s. And in those days, Britain was a totally different place to what it is now. There was no race baiting by the news media. There was no hypocrisy, or certainly not at the level there is now in the news media regarding things like lockdown, locking up people, unlawful detention, guilty until proven innocent. Endless bail was something anathema to the British media in those days. It wasn't something cheered along like it is now. There was no Project Fear by the government, and there was no mental health crisis. And, I will give Sky credit for highlighting the mental health crisis in Great Britain, but what they never do is talk about their own culpability in Britain's mental health crisis, their own culpability in dividing the country, their own culpability of causing a lot of the problems I think we have in British society. And I think if BSkyB or News Corp, as its parent company, would have to pay out compensation to all the British people affected by the mental health problems that Sky themselves have caused, it would run into billions and billions and billions of pounds. And, if you think about the psychological effects of 7 days, 24-hour-a-day, terror-based news, government propaganda masquerading as journalism, corporate propaganda masquerading as journalism, I think it would have it'd be a pretty interesting lawsuit. It'd be pretty interesting to see what the jury came up with. I was talking to a doctor about 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about someone's all these kind of mental health cases he has to deal with. And so I said, well, don't you think Sky News is the root cause of Britain's mental health crisis? And he says, oh, well, I don't, I think that's a bit of a generalization. So I said, well, you got 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you got Project Fear, you got War on Terror, you got Me Too, you've got lockdown. You don't think that Sky News has any culpability in Britain's mental health crisis? And he said, well, now you put it that way, I do think you got a point, but don't tell anyone because I don't want to be cancelled. So he was referring to the cancel culture, which Sky also promote through their programming. Sky News never talk about all the payers of the advertising revenue that they make with their programming, and they don't talk about the editorial decisions they make based on the corporate investment, based on the special interest investment that is part of their revenue generation in the news organization. I remember back in the days when I was living in the United States, and a very smart business colleague I used to work with said, David, these news organizations are very, very good at undercover journalism, expose journalism, exposing fraud and exposing corruption in different organizations, which is a good thing. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. And he said, yeah, but no one is ever able to do any investigations into their organizations. No one's ever able to do any reporting, serious journalism into how their organizations operate. And I said, yeah, why is that? And of course, America has a history of manipulated media, started by the CIA in the 1950s with Operation Mockingbird, where they put members of the CIA into the news media to promote government propaganda, specifically related to the investigation into the JFK assassination. And I think it's only grown since. And of course in Britain, we're doing the same thing with Sky. We have a BSkyB or News Corp, foreign organization, and responsible for a lot of our programming. Same with the big tech companies, Google and Facebook and Apple, foreign companies, dealing with how Britain's free speech and the internal communications of British citizens is controlled, is manipulated, and is regulated. And I'm totally against all this. I thought Harry Maguire would be someone that was against all this. I mean, he wasn't talking about curtailing the free speech rights of British citizens when he was playing for Hull. He wasn't talking about curtailing the free speech rights of British citizens when he was playing for Sheffield United. But when he signs a £40 million contract to Manchester United, when he's the captain, and when his focus, instead of being on winning matches, is on protecting his teammates from online hate, and backing and shilling for Sky, talking about how great they are to regulate your free speech rights, I've got a very big problem with that, and I think someone needs to call it out. So, if Harry Maguire, and I'm happy to forget about all the stuff that happened in Greece, I'm sure there was some goading and some coercion by the authorities out there. It's just the way these countries operate. But obviously he's used very bad judgment there, and I think he's using horrific judgment there. I think Maguire needs to get back to defending for Manchester United instead of shilling for Sky, and maybe they won't be conceding so many goals if he were to focus on that. But I think we really need to look at Sky very, very closely, and ask the question about how much of a force for good or bad they are in Great Britain. And again, on these big news organizations, you notice they always talk about freedom of the press or rights of the press when it's related to them, but when it's related to independent journalism, when it's related to the freedom of the press rights of independent citizens, they are far more hypocritical in their statements. And there's so much online censorship now. There is so much discrediting of independent journalism from Sky or from the BBC. And, freedom of the press is great for them when it suits them, but it's not great for us when it suits us. And, it's just a sign of the times how these big news organizations become part of the government instead of, representing the people, holding the government to account. And I think Sky are a force for a lot of bad in our country. And, it's disappointing that Harry Maguire doesn't see that. But I hope you like this video and it's provided food for thought. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.